This time Odd is speaking with Antony Butcher. Antony is riding across America to raise money and awareness for multiple sclerosis, a disease that has affected his life via his mother. Antony's whole mission is to help others and provide funding, via pledges, to support others dealing with MS. Odd and Antony talk about the experiences and differences he's viewed as he has pedaled his way across the United States. Links are provided in the description below.
Hey, Anthony.
Okay.
Tell me a story.
Okay. I'd like to tell you a story about what you can discover when you cycle in the rain. So I should preface this by saying I describe myself as not a good cyclist. I don't do much cycling apart from when I do these charity challenges. I've done a few in the past, and after them I hide my bike at the back of the garage, pretend I can't see it, and don't go for a ride as long as possible. And in particular, I dislike cycling when it's not warm, sunny, and the wind's coming from behind me. It's already difficult enough to jump on a bike and spin your legs. Why would I do it in the cold? Why would I do it in the rain? Why would I do it when I'm going uphill? Why would I do it when the wind's in my face? And the trouble is, when you say you're going to cycle from New York to San Francisco and you've got a timetable of places to get to, you don't really have much choice about that. 3 months in America, it's going to rain sometimes. And I've been lucky. It's not rained that much. But there was a day in Pittsburgh, and I had a lovely stay in Pittsburgh, really interesting city. Went to a pinball cafe. Fantastic. But as I was there, I was watching this weather forecast, and I knew the day I was going to leave Pittsburgh, it was going to start raining at about midnight, and it was going to keep raining all day long. And I thought, well, the only thing for it is to stick on those waterproofs that I've lugged all the way over here. But the thing about waterproofs when you're cycling is water finds a way in, right? You wear a good pair of waterproofs and you stand still for a while, it will keep the water out. You're moving around, it will come in your neck, it will go up your arms, it will slip under the coat. So I set off at 7 o'clock in the morning, and it's wet and it's raining and I'm cold. And I remember at one point stopping for a little pee break under a bridge and setting off and seeing a puddle and thinking that doesn't look too bad. And the puddle's about a foot deep and I nearly fall off a bicycle. And I watched my rims, my hub disappear under the puddle. I'm like, fucking hell. And I'm cycling along and I get to the Beaver River, and I'm like, I'm a bit cold, I should get changed. And when you're cycling, you can't just kind of pop home. Like, home's the other side of the Atlantic Ocean, so I'm standing under like a covered awning for entrance to a restaurant. I'm stripping off basically down to my bib shorts and putting on new dry clothes underneath and kind of getting cold, and my feet are literally yellow at this point. But the only thing to do when you're cold and wet on a bicycle is get back on and keep cycling, because the longer you're still, the longer you're cold. So I'm heading up Beaver Falls, and I'm going through kind of different towns and thinking I want to stop for lunch. And I've actually I had this wonderful route planned out on old roads, kind of mirroring, I think it's Highway 18 or Highway 19. And I just thought, I don't want to be turning left or right and having to stop. I want to get on the main highway, sit in the hard shoulder, turn all my lights on, and cycle as fast as possible, because the sooner I get to the end of the day, the better. And I reached this town called Koppel. And I stop and think, right, time for food. And I like to stop at local diners, at local cafes. I think you meet the most interesting people. I think you get the most interesting food. And Koppel has 2 places for food. It has a gas station with a pizza place attached, and it has a Subway. And I go, I'm not interested in that. I'm going to cycle to the next town. And I pull up my weather forecast and I pull up a radar, and the radar goes, hey, it is about to rain. You think it's wet now? We're about to throw buckets of water in your direction. And I think, right, sod that. I'm not going out. I'm going to go and sit in the Subway. I can see the sign over there. I'm going to grab a sandwich. Sure, it'll be rubbish, but, I'm going to grab that Subway. I'm going to sit in the corner and say, can I sit here for a while? And I get in, and the 2 staff, the 2 people who run it, absolutely wonderful. They're like, right, you go and grab this as your corner. We'll keep an eye on your bicycle. Do you need to charge anything? Do you need any paper towels to dry yourself off? And I have a bit of a banter with everyone that comes in. And I get my sandwich and my cookie and my drink, and I say, I'm just going to pop to the restroom, as you Americans would say. And as I'm heading to the restroom, I hear them go, hey, here comes our 100-year-old boyfriend. What? Come back from the restroom, and there's a gentleman sat at my table. I very much just believe in having a chat with everyone and kind of being open. So I go, hey, how you doing? Good, he says. We have a bit of a chat, and I say I'm cycling across America, and I notice he's holding this walking stick with some carvings in it. I say, oh, what are your carvings? He says, oh, these are my carvings from when I was in the Second World War. And my grandmother passed away in November 2020, and I thought that was the last time I would see someone who was a part of the Second World War. World War II veterans are few and far between these days. people who had to genuinely go out and fight for freedom that directly impacted, me, are few and far between. So he tells me about his stick. And at the top, he has the numbers 511. That's the number of days he was in the field. He landed in Sicily. He fought his way up through Italy. He was at Monte Cassino, which is one of the most devastating battlefields of the Second World War. And he fights his way up to Dachau concentration camp. And he says, it was hell on earth. None of us wanted to go there, but someone had to go in and help those people, and we were tasked with that. So he's involved in liberating the people in Dachau concentration camp. And we get speaking. It turns out his name is Guy, which is my dad's name. And all the way through this trip, there have been these little kind of spooky coincidences. Guy is not a particularly common name. And I kind of reflect on this, and I kind of think, if I hadn't been doing this trip, I wouldn't have cycled in the rain. If I'd gone any other day and it had been sunny, I wouldn't have gone to that subway. I'd have gone to, I'm sure, a very nice diner in the next town or two. But because it rained, it forced me to stop. And I met a World War II veteran and had a chance to share stories. I talked about my journey, and he sponsored me, which was wonderful. And at the end, I went up to the two serving ladies after he'd gone. And he said, well, I'd like to, he's made a donation to me. I'd like to pay for his next, he comes in all the time. I'd like to pay for his next sandwich. And he said, well, he doesn't pay. We cover his sandwiches. He's a World War II veteran. Of course we're going to do that. And so I think there's just something around sometimes in life when it's cold and it's wet and we don't want to be there, we might have the opportunity to have an experience we would never have had. And there are lots of times in my life, if I was back home, I wouldn't go cycling in the rain. And I think this is, for me, a story that kind of makes me think about sometimes when things aren't good, when we're not enjoying ourselves, that's when the best things in life can happen. I'm not going to say that I'm going to cycle in the rain every time it rains when I get back to the UK. I'm probably going to avoid it as far as possible and put those waterproofs in the big drawer. But on the days when you have to cycle in the rain, you never know what might happen.